Dear friends, we are meeting for the fifth event of Suchitra, Suvarna, Sambrama. The 50 years of Suchitra is one thing which we we always try to cherish. 1971, when we started this film society, we were trying to acquire films from various parts of the world and bring it to our friends. Later on, the times changed. We started curating films because the number of films that were available to people became too many. Later on, in the new, that is after 2010, we have started doing more number of festivals. As part of the 50th year, this 50th year celebration is a year-long thing which is going to happen it has started happening from August 28th of 2020, and it will end on August 28th, 2021, when Suchitra will actually become 50 years old. And in this process, this is the fifth event where we have curated, with the help of pedestrian pictures, 5 films on Sufi traditions. One film which most of us had watched earlier, made by Shabnam Veeramani, In Search of Kabir, and we had discussed in length on the film in our circles, though not with Shabnam herself. And of course, Shabnam is known to very many Bangaloreans. She has been coming to Bangalore quite a number of times. And I met her personally in Rangashankara few years back when she sang few Sufi music in Rangashankara Fire. And we also have Jawad Sharif with us, who has made a fantastic film called Indus Blues. It's a so very well made film that I was really surprised that a documentary can be so well made. Uh, and I congratulate Jawad for making such a beautiful film. And of course, there is MD Pallavi with us, who is going to moderate today's session. She will be asking questions to all of you. And you remember the discussions or the dialogue that is going to happen between all of you is going to be transcribed, and it will be made into a book later in the coming years. So I hope this discussion will help all those people who are going to watch on the Facebook Live and on our suchitra.org page, and also those people who may read the discussion that you are going to have. And I once again welcome Pallavi MD. Pallavi MD is known to Shabnam, but she may not be known to Jawad. Jawad Pallavi is one of the finest singers in Bangalore. She is also an actress. She is also an activist. She practices theater. She has acted in cinema, and she sings in the street. She sings on stage. She also has sung for very many films as a playback singer. She has won innumerable awards for her singing. She is one big book of experiment. I have been watching her since the day she was born. That day on January 1st, when she was born, from that day to this day, I'm always surprised by the growth that this girl has reached. And I wish her many more accolades. And she, as a practitioner of Sufi music in Karnataka, will be talking to both of you on these films that you have made on Sufi tradition. Now, the platform is left to Pallavi. Begin, Pallavi.
Thank you, B.Suresha, for first of all disclosing my birth date. I hope to get many more presents from this year onwards. Thank you. It's really an honor to be in this session with two really absolutely brilliant filmmakers and practitioners of the art itself. Um, and first of all, I would really like to congratulate Suchitra that for so many years, it has been such a really important institution in Bangalore that really talks about important films, talks about films that make a difference, and talks and encourages filmmakers that their voices are heard, their thoughts are documented, and their films are seen. And thank you, Pedestrian Pictures, for making this possible. So let me first introduce, for those who have come just joined in, let me introduce what this session is all about, and then we can start the discussion. So Suchitra has been, for the last couple of days, has screened some brilliant films by these two filmmakers, Shabnam Veeramani and Jawad Sharif. Um, and the films that have been screened are Indus Blues by Jawad Sharif. About Indus Blues, the, the film talks about Pakistani folk artists. In the film, Pakistani folk artists talk about their struggle to keep a fading art form alive while reminding the world what they are about to lose. The diverse cultures around Indus, with over 70 spoken languages, have deep roots that go back centuries. Actually, if you see the film, you will hear this again and again from various practitioners who say, "Ye 300 purana, 1000 saal purana." Like, this is such a common usage in the world of the folk music. And filmmaker Jawad Sharif takes us on a journey spanning 1,000 miles from the Karakoram Mountains to the southern coastline. It is really an exploration of this age-old musical tradition and its state in the modern world. And to talk about the filmmaker himself, he is an award-winning filmmaker, and he has come into prominence for exploring the often ignored social subjects. His work focuses on the interface between the dominant culture and the real impact on people, society, and the environment. He's an alumnus of the Swedish Institute and Institute for Auslandbeziehung, if I said that right, from Germany. And he was awarded a scholarship at the UCLA School of Theatre, Film and Television in 2016. He was also the festival director at the Asia Peace Film Festival and a jury member of the Jaipur Library Academy Awards. Thank you, Javed. And there's so much more that one can say about you, but I think I will let you, your words speak for yourself. And thank you for joining us, Jawad. I hope I'm saying your name right, Jawad Sharif.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And I feel honored to be part of such a great panel. I mean, this is such a, I feel so good, and specifically when it comes things like, or collaborations like from across borders. So I would love to be part of it. And yes, and thank you so much for such a nice introduction. I mean, I was in discussion with Pradeep, with Deepu since last month for this festival and for this screening, and I am glad that finally this happened, and finally we are having discussion on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jawad. Thank you. I'll come back to you in a bit, and as I introduce the next filmmaker who's with us in this session, and that is Shabnam Veeramani. Shabnam Veeramani is very, very well known across India and across the world for really bringing to light the works of Kabir, most importantly. And she's a documentary filmmaker. She is a co-founder of the Drishti Media Arts and the Human Rights Collective. And she's directed several documentaries, some of which have won many awards. And the films that she has made were a part of this showing. And the films were Had Anhad, bounded and boundless. Chalo hamara desh, come to my country. Koi sunta hai, someone listens. Kabira khada bazaar mein. In the market stands Kabir. So these 4 films were shown in the couple of days that this Pedestrian Pictures Festival was organized, and to just to give you an idea of what an impact it had, Unheard won around 5 awards. It won the 1 Billion Eyes Documentary Film Festival Award. It won the Mahindra Indo-American Arts Council Film Festival Award. It was the inaugural film at the Vibgyor International Film Festival. It was shown in the Kala Ghoda Film Festival. Chalo Hamara Desh, again, was shown. These are awards and nominations that I'm talking about. At the 1 Billion Eyes Documentary Film Festival, World Performing Arts Festival, International Festival of Sacred Arts. Koi Sunta Hai, again 1 Billion Eyes Documentary Film Festival, World Performing Arts Festival. Kabira Khada Bazaar mein won a special jury prize at the 58th National Awards in India in 2011. And with these films, these films all revolve around Kabir and his poetry, but also more importantly about the world of the folk tradition and the world of Sufi that is there so present in our streets, in the streets of India, in the souls of every man who who's traveling in the trains, who's traveling by autos, which cuts across classes. And it's really an experience to watch all these films together to probably understand the soul of this country, and to be and it's one shade of the soul. There are hundreds and millions such shades, but it really throws light upon a very important shade of the soul of this country. So thank you, Shabnam, for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me here. I should tell Suresh that I'm very much a Bangalorean. I'm not visiting Bangalore from time to time. I live here, and I have also had a screening of one of these films at Suchitra Film Society as well a few years ago. And I especially have a great sense of debt and gratitude to this city. I feel it has nourished me as an artist in multiple ways. Its culture is extremely inclusive and fostering. So thank you for that.
So welcome to both of you, and hopefully in the next 1 hour we will be able to uncover some interesting details about your film, the world of the film, the people behind the film, and probably the process and the difficulties or the ease with which you could make it. So let me ask both of you this first question, is that why this subject? What is it about this subject that drew you to it? Why did you want to make this film? And in Shabnam's, for you, Shabnam, it would be it's like such a family of films. How come you didn't stop at one? Like, you have this whole world of films that you made about this subject. So whichever one of you wants to go first, please do.
Well, why this subject? So this takes me back really to the year 2002. I was living in Ahmedabad city, and I had spent more than a decade working on films with the political, socio-political movements in the country, Dalit groups, working very closely with women's groups. And I think I inherited a very secular ethic and a fairly agnostic perspective on religion. And when the Godhra train burning incident happened, leading to a spate of communal rioting in Gujarat, I think it basically shook up a very core belief in a sense in kind of a Nehruvian socialism, if you will. I think for me, it shook me to the foundations, because I felt that as a development filmmaker, I hadn't really engaged with or understood the domain of faith and why faith moves so many people so deeply in this country, and why it leads to so much social divisiveness as well. And in searching for answers for in searching for peace, I would say, peace, you see so much lack of peace outside there in the world. I set out to search for answers in the voice of Kabir about who is Ram, because Ram then and Ram today is a very emotionally charged icon for many believers in this country, and has also unfortunately been mobilized in a very politicized way by certain factions. And for me to understand who is the Ram that Kabir is speaking about, that was the foundational impulse of not just these 4 films, but even after these films have been made, we've been building an archive dedicated to Sufi Bhakti and Baul music called Ajab Sheher. Books have been written. So I continue to work. It's an unfinished project, actually. And I think these were the social triggers, but actually if you look at it at a subterranean level, a more subconscious level, there is a lot of lack of peace within, right? It's not just, the lack of peace is not just out there. It mirrors a fracture which is within us. And in a subconscious way, I think I personally had been yearning for a way of understanding myself and my place in the world that had an understanding that went beyond the material, that could show me some deeper truths from a place that is, I'll say spiritual, but let us not consider this form of spirituality as non-social. You know, this is an extremely engaged kind of spirituality. So I think those were the subterranean impulses that led me to doing this, that led me to do not 1 but 4 films, and continues to nourish me today in my sense of feeling grounded as a human being and locating me in the world. So I guess that's how I would put it.
That's fantastic. I'll come back to you with a follow-up on this one, but I want to listen. I want to hear from Jawad, this film that you've made. Please, why did you decide to do it?
First of all, Shabnam ji, I mean, she is such an inspiration, and I just heard her answer, and I would second that. Like the roots and the search of those questions, basically those questions and that search which actually motivates us. And when it comes to Indus Blues and why Indus Blues, I think this film is very close to my heart, and this is like kind of very personal. And initially when I started working on it, I mean, the narrative evolved with time. So it took us about 4 years to finish this film. And during all those 4 years, I would say the narrative evolved. But initially, I would say that the whole concept and the core idea, it came from actually the behavior from the society, specifically when I talk about Pakistan. Um uh, I feel like somehow we disowned our culture, and this is what that film is looking for. If you look at the opening sequence and the whole debate is going on, so the debate is about like this folk music, this folk literature, and these folk people and these colors and this soil, it doesn't belong from our culture. So what is our culture? I mean, so it is like such a uh, it is like such a big identity crisis here, that which we are going through, that what is our culture. uh, if if this is not our culture, so where we belong from, and the whole confusion between religion and culture. So that was the another thing, so like we didn't inherit our culture from Arab, you know so so that was the debate which actually motivated me to keep searching and keep finding those answers. So that's how we started the work on it. Initially, the idea was about the musical instruments, that which those are actually fading out, and no one plays it anymore, or there is only one musician who plays that instrument, or and there is no one who makes that instrument. Basically, the film also goes into the making of those musical instruments and those craftsmen, that what is the story behind that instrument. And it's not just about that musical instrument. It's about the whole culture, whole culture, and the history which is linked with that instrument, which is we are going to lose. So that was the basic idea, that it's not about the instrument, it's about the whole culture which are actually losing it. And then there is another thing, that that why we actually disowned our music, our folk music, our folk literature, our folk culture. So this was the basic idea, and it actually motivated me. And during the production, when we faced a lot of challenges, specifically when we went to the remote areas to film some of the musicians, and there were a lot of resistance. So that was the so we were actually finding the reasons why this resistance, and how the whole narrative is changed during those past years. So, and I think this film is the first step, and we are still, uh, we are still in search of those questions, and it's just kind of we just started the process, the thinking process, that that how to actually how to deal with it, and how to find the answers, and how to actually to unlearn all those things which are not our which are not our part of culture. Yes.
Yes, thank you. I mean, in your film, like I said, there are musicians who say this is a 300-year-old tradition, this is a 1,000-year-old tradition. And I mean, when we say that, it's very clear to us that we are all just one people. It's a very new idea that, you know, we are from different countries, and our cultures probably are, they have so much give and take between each other, that I mean, what you're saying is also true for us, and what we are saying is also true for you. um, and about this, you know, question of uh, identity and ownership of, you know, the art, and the what the art wants to say, and the folk music. And there was a once I had gone to perform, I mean, before this pandemic, of course, I had gone to North Karnataka to perform in a small town. And there somebody told me that, you know, there were this really brilliant group of folk musicians, who, and one of them, I met them, and he was just outstanding. And I asked him, so where is the rest of the, you know, where are the rest of the musicians? And he said they're all migrant laborers in Bangalore. So I mean, we lose our music and culture and tradition for, I mean, our arts to many such things. You know, it's not just a problem of um, rejection of it, but also it's such an inevitability that these people face in smaller towns, or in when it just doesn't pay. I want to ask Shabnam and then Jawad, because you both your film. I mean, I'm calling Shabnam's as one film. It's a body of films, of course.
Yeah.
But they have a certain kind of a similarity in the way that they're being made. They have been made. Um, Jawad's film is like it's a visual spectacle. It's really beautifully shot and produced, and you almost feel surprised that why would this kind of you know gorgeous culture and music be disowned? Why would it be let to die? And there's a very outward kind of storytelling uh, point of view that you've taken, Jawad. And in Shabnam's films, we see that it's a very introspective, almost like a diary. Like the travel is the audience travels along with the filmmaker and watches through the filmmaker's eyes. So these are two very distinct kind of storytelling methods that you've used. So could you tell us more about why the perspective, and what did you want to achieve through that?
Yeah, that's a good question, Pallavi. I think it was for me something that I watched carefully when I was editing the films, which was how much of myself to put into the films. And I think the journey, the quest was so fused with my own that there was never any question that, this is being made from any other gaze or any other point of view than the questions arising in my heart, And truly speaking, I have to say that in the 6 years that I was traveling almost 10 to 15 days in a month to different parts of the country and also Pakistan, it was a kind of, I was a bit possessed. I mean, there was a nasha to it, actually. And I had to kind of push myself to stop shooting, stop traveling, engage with the task of editing, storytelling, because it was nourishing me. There were new questions arising. I was changing as a person, and there was a very piquant question for me, which is, if my own understanding of myself and the world is transforming day by day in these journeys, when do I stop and share this with the world? You know what I mean? Like anything seemed too premature, because it felt like a mahasagar of like a universe of seeking, and I was acutely aware of what a novice I was in these journeys, what novice-like questions I'm asking. And at what time do you feel ready to share an understanding with the world was a challenge. People spend lifetimes on understanding a subject like this, and it's never enough. So I don't know if that answers your question, but really it became, therefore, even reflected in the form of the films, in the sense that there is no definitive statement being made anywhere. It's an exploration, and many questions are left open-ended, because it's like, kahan uth rahi hai ye awaaz? Koi sunta hai? Where is this sky? Where is this voice? And who is listening? I still don't have the answers. And so they were always left as open-ended questions, and you would only get glimmers of possibilities that were left open-ended. And I deliberately also left contradictions in place in the film, where you see one point of view and you also see an opposing point of view, and you are left with that discomfort of not having something resolved, because that's, I think, not the state I was in. That's the state I think the Sufis would demand that we be at all moments, that we never arrive at a state of confident certainty, of knowing things very dualistically from one perspective, but to stay in that wondrous place of not knowing. So I think that got reflected in the films. And regarding the choice as a filmmaker, my approach is very instinctively very sahaj and non-staged. So I prefer to leave things in the frame. I prefer to just arrive and shoot. Uh, the less setup, the better, So I think you see that aesthetic in the film, of spontaneity, of here and nowness, of least possible contrivance.
Yes, that's very like a part of the experience of the film, that you feel like you are sitting inside that specific place, and things are happening as you watch them. There's that sense of immediacy to it,
Right.
spontaneity.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And I think it's also how much to locate yourself, because that creates a tremendous sense of, I guess, honesty, for lack of a better word, where you are located in that space. You're not being silent. If you have a disagreement with someone, it is being reflected there itself. The argument is unfolding on the camera. Or if your presence is changing the way things are unfolding, that is also revealed. So it's a conscious choice to reveal the presence of the filmmaker in that space, and to become a part of the action, and um, mm, uh, yeah.
There are so many place points in these films where
Correct. Yeah.
So that's such an interesting choice of edit,
Right.
that you feel the filmmaker being present there and saying, I will let this be seen.
Correct.
There are many moments in these films like that.
Very true. And I think, curiously, by revealing my presence in that moment, I also make space for you to be present there.
Exactly.
My journeys hopefully do not to make your own connections and draw your own conclusions, almost, because yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Shabnam. Jawad, please tell us about why did you choose to have that point of view, and how did you arrive upon it?
So I really loved the approach of Shabnam's, and it is like more like cinema variety and observational cinema. And I really love that. And personally, my personal approach towards films are like that. Like my couple of previous films, even the film I am working on, it's like very casual. The film is not going to disturb the situations, and the setting, and you are not going to disturb the situations, and that's how you got the real moments, the raw feel of it. That's very important. And when we talk about documentaries, so that raw feel is, and that honest feel is very, very important. And but when it comes to Indus Blues, I feel like so what I did, so unfortunately, we don't have that audience for documentaries in South Asia, or even in general. Like I have been to film festivals, but I always listen to this thing that we don't have documentary audience. And when we talk about our region, so it is more difficult, to to get people to watch documentaries, and specifically for such a niche subjects, subjects like very, very specific kind of subjects, or very niche subjects. That's what I felt, even through like my previous films. So what I did, I tried to capture uh, the beauty and the essence of those musical instruments, and then that landscape culture, and the culture diversity, and the colors, and the peoples. Because first of all, you have to fall for those colors, those peoples, that landscape, that beauty. So you have to make your audience or your viewer realize like what you are going to lose. It's not, this is something, and it has that value, and it has that it has that richness which we are going to lose. So that was the whole objective, to get those aerial shots and those big aerial shots and all that stuff. And that's why it took that much time, like 4 years as well. And it's an independent project, and for independent projects it's really difficult to get that kind of production. But but I have shot it on very small cameras. It is like Sony A7 S2 and 3. It's like very small camera. And when people at audience ask me, so I say it's like very small camera and there is nothing special. So it's all about that approach, like how we approach to the subject. So the whole objective is people are not specifically audience here, it's more like commercial audience. They are more into, to Bollywood and to the dramas and everything, but not into the documentaries. Even if you announce there is a free screening of this documentary, or there is a free screening of Indus Plus, you have to put a lot of effort to bring people in, so it's really difficult. So what I did, I made it like, I did that packaging very commercially, so it has that flavor, like this is something, something is going to happen. It is like it has like all those commercial ingredients to get people in, and when, so I, at some point, I feel like I have deceived my audience as well, because you have seen the trailer, and it has those big shots, and some fights are going on, and people are screaming and things. And when you come and say, oh, okay, so it's like very, the flow is, very, like it's very, the pace is very different when you compare it to the trailer. But the thing is like. Uh, uh, if you look at the narrative, otherwise, there was I think it was really difficult to bring that narrative in the mainstream media. Like if I make like the casual documentary which we normally make, and which I love to make, my style as well. But I feel like that was very difficult to bring people or take your message to the mainstream media or to the audience through, through our casual way of storytelling. So they need that ingredients and stuff. And uh, at some points, I feel, I did that consciously, that I used music as shelter, to give shelter to that narrative, because there are things you cannot talk directly.
Yeah.
There are things, you cannot have debate about Islam and music, or forbidden or not forbidden, so I try to use music as shelter, so maybe through art, to portray and to package that message. So this was the one of the approach towards the whole treatment of the film.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. But there are moments in the film where like I said to Shabnam, you do allow the shot to roll on, like you don't edit it. There are moments where you do allow many things to be said, and for the audience to listen to that. I want to ask, I want to bring about uh, this thing about both your subjects are about listening. How do you listen to this art form itself, or to the words, to the music? How does one receive it? How does one listen to it? But also, how is the society listening to it? How is the society responding to it? And in today's world, what do you think, uh, how relevant is this, sense of listening? Is it there as yet? Have we lost a bit of that in today's world of not talking to each other, but talking at each other. Um, have we, do we have to relearn how to listen to ourselves and to, to what is happening outside? Because there's so much cacophony and there's so much um, senselessness in a way. And this pandemic, I guess, has kind of also thrown that up into the air. All our weaknesses have been exposed. We as a human race, what are our problems and what are our weaknesses? And it seems like our biggest weaknesses are not something that, not things that are inevitable, but actually things that we have created for ourselves. Not being kind, not being caring, not being concerned. Like these are things that really are the biggest problems of this pandemic. And what do you have to say about that? Like your films are so much about the soul and the internal and the art of listening to deep within, and also the art of listening to what's being said. And as documentary filmmakers, I mean, this is the biggest thing that a documentary filmmaker has, to go and to listen to what is being said, and then come back, think, contemplate, and present it in a way that, your argument is also placed, but that person's argument is also placed. So what do you have to say about that?
A beautiful question. Thank you, Pallavi. It opens up so many rich possibilities. As a documentary filmmaker, we tend to, or I had to very consciously move in my journeys with Kabir, move away from a discursive mode to an immersive mode. And I'll explain what I mean. One scholar of Kabir I met in Banaras once said to me, and I was in discussion with him, he said, Kabir समझने की चीज है जरूर, लेकिन उससे कहीं ज्यादा कबीर गुणने की चीज है. To translate, he's saying, yes, you can understand Kabir for sure up to a certain limit, but really far more than that, Kabir is to be hummed and listened to. Gunna, unki dhun mein gum hona. Now, this to me signals two modes of apprehending reality even. I feel our age, post-enlightenment, in this modern age, we are too beholden to the cerebral intellect. We are in the thrall of the, god of reason and rationality. Everything has to be argued about, and argued through prosaic words, which are so limited, which is why this form has both poetry, which takes you to a place beyond what can be argued, to a place of silence, actually, to a place where nothing can be said, because it is an akat katha, So it takes you to a place beyond the prosaic through poetry, and even further through music. Because that's what the capacity of music is. It is to take you to a place of wordless cognition of some kind, right? You can't even often say it in words, like mujhe kya hua? Why was I overcome listening to someone sing that poem or that Sufi song? People their eyes are streaming with tears and they can't explain what part of you has been touched. So this idea of listening is so integral to the oral traditions, right? The oral traditions in which this poetry travels, it's all about listening. Kabir even says, Suno bhai sadho. He's not saying padho bhai sadho, right? He is saying, listen. And in the Nirgun traditions of bhakti, and I would argue also the Baul, the Sufi, the more Sagun Bhakti traditions, there is such an emphasis on music and listening. In the Nirgun tradition, there is an emphasis on Shabd. Shabd means both word and sound. And in a sense, the Shabd is the divine. Many people will argue that the naad is what is being apprehended. And my feeling is that the reason why the nirguni will take us beyond the sagun, the form, is that form, at the risk of oversimplification here, bear with me, creates a sense of division, because when I see something, it's out there and I'm here, right? But what does sound do? Sound cannot be heard without it becoming part of your body. You cannot listen to rhythm without your body moving. Sound crisscrosses, penetrates, breaches boundaries, perhaps more effectively than view or gaze. So the Nirguni will say, listen, because sound is also evoked in the Big Bang, right? It was not the big light, it was the Big Bang. And why are they speaking about the music of the spheres? I'm drawing broad sweeps here, so bear with me. I may be oversimplifying, but there is something here. Why are they speaking about Anhad Naad, about that unstruck cosmic sound that we can hear in our bodies and in the universe if we are able to quieten our cacophonic buck, 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 buck minds to connect. And that sound, if we can hear it, dissolves the boundaries between me and other, between self and other, between India and Pakistan, between self and God, between singer and song. These are all the boundaries between singer and listener. These are all the boundaries that begin to dissolve and melt when we truly listen. So really, it's a very, very powerful question and very germane to the entire enterprise of, I think, what all this is about.
Thank you.
Wow.
There are two moments in each of your films which are really terribly insightful. Jawad, I know you want to answer this question too. I just say this and I'll allow you to respond to this question about listening. There's a moment in one of your films, I forget which one, where there is this musician or an artist who's sitting in, you really have like some of the most unbelievable locations for your film, Shabnam. You go and sit you're in the back alleys of some small village, or I don't know where it is, and they're sitting and they're just, I don't know how you got them to be so unaware of the camera itself, unaware of being captured, because it doesn't seem like that. So he says, look, don't intellectualize this.
I know
he says. And he says, I'll tell you what it is. Do you want to, I forget what he says. Does he say, do you want to find the answer or something like that? He says, if you want to find the answer, don't intellectualize it. Just turn your hand, he says.
All you have to do is this.
Yes.
And that gesture,
it's unbelievably beautiful what he says, because it is simplified to the most minutest detail, I don't know. I don't want to explain what he said, but you can find 100 answers in that.
This is such a beautiful point that you have raised. And I'm going to link this with something that a veena player told me once. Because you're talking about listening, Pallavi. You are such a wonderful singer and an artist. When you are singing, are you doing this or are you doing this? A veena player told me that the architecture of the Rudra Veena has been designed so that the best acoustic rendition of what the veena player plays comes back to the player. It doesn't go to the audience. Now, to me, that speaks volumes. It really speaks volumes, because as an artist, who are you? What is it all about? Is it an inner communion? Is it a search, a self-interrogation to which an audience eavesdrops, actually, But is it this or is it this? I think our age is all about this. There's very little this happening anywhere, you know. And the other moment in Koisunta hai, towards the end, if you remember, Vijay Sardeshmukh ji, who is no more, wonderful disciple of Pandit Kumar Gandhar, he said something that was so beautiful. And it's in fact the sentence that we end the entire film on, Koisunta hai. He says, Kumar ji kaha karte the, मैं सुन रहा हूँ जो आपको सुना रहा हूँ.
वाह, क्या बात है.
You know, to what is that? It speaks volumes. I mean, you are first in a place of humility, of receptivity, of submission, of surrender, because you are confronting something much vaster than yourself, and you have placed yourself in that place of first listening, of receiving something, of taking an in breath before you breathe out. Nowadays, we are in a very different state of the aesthetic dimension. I mean, I'll draw another parallel from a very non-performative art space. You know, the Meenakari of Rajasthan, you know, they make those beautiful earrings. The Meenakari of the old days would be done not just over here, but equally beautifully on the back. Which no one is going to see, right? Why does an artist do that?
Yeah.
If we can touch that place of connection with our art, where there is absolutely no dilution, where your gaze is on log kya keh rahe hain, mujhe kya award milega, acha logon ko pasand aa raha hai ki nahi. You know, that dilution, which comes up in a Kabir poem where he says, Naina antar avatum, naina jhamp to hilum, na main dekhun aur ko, na tohe dekhandu. You know, come into my eyes. It's between you and me. People can eavesdrop and watch if they so desire. But really, this expression, this listening, this communion is between you and me.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's beautiful, beautiful. So beautiful. You know, in your film, Jawad, there's a moment when, you know, a lot of these musicians do say that, first of all, it's so difficult to, you know, continue the art form itself, because it's something that is passed on, you know, generation to generation, and it's first of all economically, financially difficult, but more importantly, there are, you know, times when it is considered haram. And there's a moment when this artist, folk musician, says, you know, you can't see God. Dikhta nahi hai, he says. You don't see God. You can't see God, and you can't see the sur. They both are the same. You listen to it. So there is this such a strong emphasis that is given to the sense of listening, and listening in the larger sense, of course, listening to what is being said, listening to what is being said inside you, and reflecting on it. Jawad, what do you have to say about this, please?
Yeah. So actually, that was such a beautiful moment, and that was again, I mean, it was like kind of very unconscious moment when we were filming, and we have closed our cameras and everything, and but that was the part of, like, you know, post shoot and post filming discussion. And so it's more about, and that was such a that line was, you know, it was like uh, you know what, like you the artist says that basically music and God, you can compare music, sur, rhythm, compare with God, you know. And आप जो है वो सुर को जो है वो खुदा के साथ मिला सकते हैं. और then I would say, what an interesting body language it is. Then he asks कि कहाँ है सुर, कहाँ है,
Yes, yes.
किधर किधर है. कोई दिख रहा है, मतलब कोई सुर तो आपको कहीं कहीं कुछ नहीं दिख रहा, तो खुदा कहाँ है?
Beautiful.
Where is God? और फिर वो साथ में, अब उसी में वो that when I say body language, it's very, I mean, interesting. तो उसमें साथ में like he is actually, उन्होंने ऐसे अपने कान को हाथ लगाते हैं कि जो है वो सुर को खुदा के साथ मिला दिए कि भाई मुझे यहाँ से भी छोड़ देना, but this is the fact, so this is the reality, and that's where the sur or that all the listening thing जो अभी शबनम जी ने जिस तरह से, I mean, what a beautifully articulate किया वो सारे उसको experience को, so this is what it is, I mean, and when most of the musicians, even like we as filmmakers, I think we are actually looking for those moments when we make films. We are actually searching for those moments that, like, it's all about, you know, to minus yourself, and you have to live in the experience, you have to fly. जो वो कबीर वाली बात है कि उड़ने वाली बात है, so that's what it is, I feel like that.
And you know, so there is this, I mean, we are in an age, like Shabnam, you said, where everything is this. I mean, children who are now born into the world of the social media probably have a very, very different sense of the self, because the self is always on display. The self is always being looked at. The self is always being commented at, judged, and the self is always yearning to understand oneself through these, you know, inputs that are coming from outside. It's really a very tragic. It's tragic the way that this has turned out to be, because apparently a lot of psychologists and psychiatrists have said that, you know, this has a very, very bad effect on children and their sense of self. And for the people who have been born, luckily, pre-computers, and then maybe computers, but at least pre-social media, the sense of self is very different. You don't actually, you at least have an idea that you should look inwards. The children of today, it's going to be such a huge struggle for them to understand that the self, the worth, the identity, everything comes from inside and is not given to you from outside. Now, I mean, everything is documented in today's world. Everything is shown. And it's quite ironic that, you know, we are talking about the visual medium here on a visual medium platform, and we're talking about listening. Because the visual medium is a new medium. The art of listening, and what we know about listening is an age-old. It's more than hundreds of years old. We know how to do it, but this visual medium has become so powerful, and it bombards us constantly with images from every direction. We are constantly bombarded with images, iconography, information that is motivated, non-motivated, that is colored, non-colored, true, untrue, false. It is a mess out there. And the fact that you both have made films which document the oral traditions, the traditions that are not actually put on display like this, what sense of responsibility do you think you felt as filmmakers while making this and while, you know, presenting it to the world?
Wonderful question again. Pallavi, this irony was very, very alive in my heart in those years of documenting, and actually continues to be, because we've taken it into an online Ajab Sheher web archive where we are putting out even more documentation than what we edited into these 4 films. So the irony of fixing something that is fluid, that is arising and disappearing in the moment of singing is ever present actually for us. And we've had some very interesting debates about this, even with some of the people the practitioners like Parvati Baul, who's a wonderful friend as well. And I remember she once told us, kind of, Parvati is very impish, she'll always poke, right? And so she would say, oh, so we were shooting with her for Ajab Sheher, right? And she said, oh, so you will do e-satsang now. You will do satsang online. Huh? People will, all this will happen online. So, and yet, and she said, my guru used to tell me that Kalyug mein kuch छिपा नहीं रहेगा. In Kalyug, nothing will be secret. It will all be on the internet. So, so this is really a very, very important question. What we, if by Google searching and finding information, we think we have known something, we have not, we have actually only scratched the surface of the journey of knowing, which must take us into an immersive experiential dimension. So capturing these through documentation can at best be a sen, what is called a sen in Malvi, in the Kabir oral tradition, which is a sign. It's just an ishara. Like in the Zen tradition, you say the finger pointing to the moon. It cannot be the moon. And hopefully the documentations that Jawad Bhai and I have done will trigger deeper journeys. And I think that's the role they play. They cannot be mistaken for the real experience, which has to enter your body. And in fact, I joke about this with Parvati, because after we put a lot of her documentation online, she got some of her best disciples from across the globe, who saw her online on YouTube through our channel, and somebody came from Japan and somebody from somewhere else. So I once sent her a cartoon. There is this famous doha about Kabir saying, Guru Govind do khade kake lagum paye, balihari Guru Dev ki jine Govind diyo bataye, which means like, Guru and Govind are both standing in front of me, and Kabir says, I'll touch the feet of my Guru because he showed me the way to God, Govind, right? So the cartoon said, Google Guru dou khade kake lagu paye, balihari wa Google ki jine Guru diyo bataye. So sorry, I'm getting facetious here, but I am very acutely aware of the dilemma of this, because I also see how much over documentation has taken us away from the place of deep listening. Like if you see concerts right now or in the yatras, people have become lazy listeners because they are recording it on their mobile devices. Baad mein jaake dekhenge, and it seems the act of capturing something on your mobile seems to be the act itself. And there is no, and it really boggles my mind to think of the pre-documentation times, what quality of listening people must have brought to that place. Like, jaise कहते हैं, you are from the classical tradition, Pallavi, there was an era when there were these great music conferences, right? Where people would travel long distances to go and hear maestros of different gharanas. There was no mobile phone. All that you will learn is in that moment. And it's come, it's arisen, and it's gone. Ab jo tumne seekh liya, usme seekh liya. Can you imagine what awareness and what presence people would have brought to that moment when documentation and over documentation didn't make us so lazy, so not here and now. So yes, it's a big dilemma. At another level, you see how much documentation has brought experiences home to people that would just never have been possible. So the incredible democratization of experience and knowledge cannot be put down. We can keep saying technology bad, but things are changing in the realm of knowledge and experience too, thanks to how easy we have made it to access, and how much people's journeys are being triggered across the globe by the availability of this quality of documentation online. So so it's a complex thing where we see both sides of it, you know. And I'm talking too much, so I'm going to stop. But maybe later we can talk about the responsibility and the questions that arise when you document oral traditions that intrinsically were not for performance. And when you document with folk singers, and the questions that arise there is a separate area we can talk about, but I should shut up and let Jawad say something.
No. I mean,
No, no.
it's pleasure listening to you. I mean, it's such a it's such a spiritual feeling, I would say that. Yeah, thank you for all this.
But I want to ask both of you. I mean, I think this will be maybe my final question. And if then there are any questions from the audiences, then maybe we take one or two of them. That, you know, this experience that you probably had with interacting with these absolutely unbelievably talented, unbelievably insightful artists, there must have been moments where you would have felt like something of an epiphany, or oh my god, this is, oh, this is why I'm making the film, you know. There must have been moments like that. So please do share, Jawad and Shabnam ji, if you can, that during the journey and meeting so many of these wonderful musicians who also, you know, it's not just about them practicing an art form that, you know, is handed down by their generation, that, you know, fathers and forefathers, but it's also about the craft and the interweave of, you know, meaning and craft that has, you know, happened over centuries. The intent, the content, the craft, it all kind of merges into this art form, which is so beautiful. It's not an instant thing, you know. It has pickled for centuries. So even without their knowledge, they are imparting a lot of knowledge to you. So there must have been one or two or maybe many moments where you must have felt like, this is why I'm making this film, and this is why it's important to make this and document this, or, you know, such an epiphanous moment. If you had, please do share that with us.
I'm going to let Jawad bhai speak first.
Thank you so much, Shabnam, and thank you so much, Pallavi, for this question. There are not, I mean, it's not just about like one or two moments. So I think I could sum up experience, and like it was so rich, you know, like I cannot explain in the words, but I still, I mean, there were few times which I still remember. So I feel like one of the, so there is a like very old sarod player. It's a string instrument from Balochistan, Dera Bukti Sui. So I remember that moment, like the first time we entered his house, and he was such a generous person. I mean, the how I mean the first of all, getting into the Balochistan and on that village, you know, because it was really difficult. So it took us like months and months to get the permissions to film there, because our concept was so there were points, okay, you can bring that musician to the Islamabad. Why you have to go to the location when there is so much risk involved? So, but I was like, no, it's not about just the instrument or musician. It's about the soil. It's about the matti. It's about the culture linked with that instrument. So, like after a lot of effort, I still remember the first time, like I entered the home of Ustad Sachu Khan, Saro's player, and it was such an emotional moment. And it was like matti ka ghar, very ek kacha ghar tha unka, and we went there, we sit, or there were like kind of silent moment, and we were just sitting and we were talking nothing. And that was the moment which I realized, I mean, there is the aura of the whole environment and that feeling, like it affected me a lot. And then he started then he started like uh, he started playing this rose. No one has requested him. He just, I mean, उन्होंने अपना साज उठाया. बिल्कुल एक वो दिन का टाइम था. I think it was like about to like early evening. और उन्होंने अपना साज उठाया and he started playing the classical धुन. वो भी सरोज के ऊपर. It was a string instrument. And at some point, I mean, it was such an environment, I started crying. I don't know. And I didn't feel like filming that day. And I was like, I don't have to film, please. And but eventually there were a lot of issues. We had permission for 2 days, then we have to leave the provenance and all those bullshits. But that was the moment. And what happened during the editing? So when we talk about documentaries, you know, post-production and editing, it is such a lengthy, I mean, it's a lengthy process, and it took us about 2 years to finish the whole editing process. So during the editing, that piece, which is recorded on the sound, like बिल्कुल ही हल्की quality की sound device थी जिस पे वो record हुआ था. And whenever I stuck at some point during edit, and मैं उस piece को चला लेता था. And it gives me it, I mean, वो मुझे उस feel में, like it takes you back to that feeling. Right now it happens. I mean, that was it's such a simple, but it's so touching. I mean, I cannot explain, and there are a lot of moments like that. Wow.
That's beautiful. That you spoke about a moment that you did not film.
Yeah.
Very beautiful.
Yeah.
This is so beautiful. Thank you, Jawad bhai. And I think it is very, very telling that you speak of a moment where you stopped filming, and that's exactly the moment
Yes.
I wanted to share. I wanted to talk about, and it's significant, no, isn't it? It's very loaded. Why are these the moments of epiphany where we put aside our professional selves? I wanted to go back to a moment when I was in Mukhtiar Ali's house in Puggal, near Bikaner in Rajasthan. We were sitting in his mud lipan wala aangan. Unke saath recording pura ho gaya tha. And Mahesha Ramji had come from a neighboring village, actually from quite far away. And unki mandli ke saath we were just going to start recording. And he started playing and singing, and everything just began to dissolve around me. And I remember putting my camera away, shutting it down. I have no documentation of that session. We only have the music. And I just put it off and I put it away, and I said, I would be not true to this moment if I kept a camera between me and what is trying to enter me right now.
Yeah.
And I was weeping as well. And I think maybe there is another moment which I will share. You know, we had come from a lot of shooting, recording in Malwa, and we had just arrived, quite harried and rushing about. Inke saath interview karo, phir wahan jao. Every day packed with meeting many people. And we arrived in the home of Vijay Sardeshmukh ji, disciple of Kumarji in Pune. And we arrived, and he said, "Aiye, baithiye." And I asked him a question. I rolled camera. And Pallavi, he tuned his tanpura without answering for almost, I think it must have been 10 minutes. And here I am, full of, like engagement. मैंने सवाल पूछा है, मुझे जवाब चाहिए, right? And the journey you make in that moment of utter silence, where a musician is just tuning his tanpura and taking his time to cogitate, to be with something. I don't know. Let me not speak for Vijayji. I don't know why he didn't answer me for 10 minutes. But I have that footage. And for a long time, I wondered, isko film mein dale? Should we put our audiences through this too? Where you first confront your own discomfort with silence.
Yeah.
Right? You first confront your own discomfort with slowing down. Because we are constantly filling everything up, na? It's easy to fill up because then you can escape something. So first, what came up was discomfort. Like something is wrong. And then you relaxed. And then you entered the moment from a place of no expectation. Okay, this can go anywhere, and we have entered a timeless zone now. It doesn't matter. So to me, it's very significant. I feel these are moments when we are simplified, or simplified may not be the best word, where our agendas are eliminated. हमारे ना रिश्ते, नाते, dealings with the world are too agenda driven. Everything has a purpose. In this particular age, even I remember with nostalgia, the culture in our lives when we grew up, where friends would drop in with no agenda, right? You didn't have to set a meeting. Okay, I will meet you on so and so, come over, and it's all fixed. There was a agenda-lessness of being, where you're not getting anywhere. You're not achieving something. You're not hasil karoing. You're not getting. वो moment जो आता है, you, in a sense, you touch a place of knowing yourself truly, where you are not a filmmaker, you're not doing anything. You're just being. You're experiencing something pure and beyond agendas. So there were many such gifts on these journeys, which were deeply transformative. And I think really, even the challenges I had as a professional filmmaker, as an editor, all the paralysis that I sometimes had, what is this film about? What is my statement to the world? You get into those ego chakkars, basically, or I would berate myself on not taking a better crew along with me and getting better quality sound and camera and some of the spectacle type beautiful shots that you see in Jawad's film. So I've been through all those questions. Kya hai? What are you doing? What have you, and those paralysis moments, the only thing that would dissolve them was a recognition that you have received a gift. And now all you can do is pass it on like an offering. That's all. It doesn't have to be Tismar Khan. It just has to be what it is. An offering. That's it. So those were the moments of, learning something that has stayed with me. That is something I go back to every time I get stuck in my own ego chakkars,
Thank you. I think it's really a beautiful way to kind of finish my part of this discussion, where it really is about truly your journey in while making these films. Both of your journeys were about listening, were about experiencing the art form, and in some way or the other to be able to capture something of it. So I mean, as an audience, I really feel quite happy that maybe a lot of what you heard is not there in the films, but some of it is there, and I have access to it. So I think that is really beautiful about both.
And I just want to add there, like the most interesting thing is about like some of the those moments which we experience, those, you know, those magical moments. So we as filmmakers, we are very greedy about the shots, about the movements, and about the music, you know. And those are the moments, यार अच्छा नहीं रिकॉर्ड किया, कोई बात नहीं, नहीं
Such
चाहिए. Otherwise you are like, यार वो रिकॉर्ड हो जाता है यार, तो मिल जाता है यार वो, you
You're
know. So
very
it's yes.
Yes, yes. Thank you both. I really had. I mean, it was such a lovely conversation. I really learned a
Thank
lot
you,
and
Pallavi,
enjoyed.
for asking very, very insightful, deep questions that triggered this kind of conversation. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Thank you. I ask Suresh to now do, take over from me.
It was a
Suresh
lovely.
Saab, आपके expressions were very nice. I mean, I was looking at Suresh Saab's expression and I was how you were, I mean, enjoying the discussion. I loved that. Thank you.
It was a fantastic discussion, and we have also learned a lot of things through this discussion. That what is not shot can also be a great feeling for the filmmaker. Huh? But in the interest of those people who are filmmakers who are watching live, I would like to ask few simple questions. Hmm? Like, you might have shot a 6 hours material, probably, Jawad, huh? But finally your film is approximately around 65 70 minutes.
Yeah, about.
How did you edit such a vast material? And I was really certain, so very kind of so very enthralled, or I don't know what word to use. At the 49th second you have a fly cam shot where a, a, a sarangi player is playing
Yes.
in a courtyard, and the fly cam starts flying back, and it comes out of the arched door, and it goes so far that it becomes a top angle. It's almost like a bird's eye view of the whole city. And the
Lahore.
courtyard, an old courtyard in a new city, probably in Peshawar or something. It has multiple meanings, no? The whole tradition. That guy would have told just about few seconds back that this specific tradition of playing, there is nobody else. I am the only man now in this city. With that kind of a situation, in we see this visual, after shooting 6 or 7 hours of material, how did you edit it to 1 hour? And I had the same question.
So that is
Why
like
did you make
very
it as four films? And what was the size of the material that you had for the edit?
uh, thank you so much, Suresh, for this question. I mean, yeah, so that shot was really, that was like on moment decision. We were there in the Lahore fort, that is in Lahore. So it is like old Lahore fort. We were in Lahore fort, and at that moment somehow I got an idea, like, like what if, let's give it a try. So what if, I mean, we take just from the arch, from that arch to the whole city, and with the building of like Badshahi Mosque was there, and the Lahore Gurdwara was there, and then the old Lahore fort was there. And it is such a I mean, it was such an interesting comparison, and it, I think somehow it conveyed the message, and I felt like that is kind of the transition towards the narrative. I felt like when, because the Indus Blues has two parts. The first part is more about music, introductions, and the performances, culture, big shots, and the second part is all about the narrative. So that was like kind of, I felt like it is like kind of transition from musician to the society, like how society is reflecting the whole culture and the whole process of it.
Yeah.
And when it comes to editing, I think it was more than like I think 200 or 300 hours of material.
Oh,
It is like, yeah, it is like about 200 to 300 hours material. And the director cut, it is still about 95 minutes.
oh.
so but when you show it to your friends, and they were like, yeah, it is very nice, it is very interesting, but until the audience has interest in this subject, they would watch it, but otherwise you have to make it short. So that is, so it is the challenge. And then we like, so initial cuts, it was like 3 hour cut, then we make it to 2 hour, then it's like 1.5 hour. So it's the whole process. But for us, for a filmmaker, and if you are filming as well, and if you are editing as well, it is really difficult to sacrifice some of your favorite shots, or some of your favorite
Really your
favorite
darling
pieces of
everything.
music. Yeah, some of favorite pieces of music, or some of your favorite moments. But then you have to do that, because uh, uh, as uh, as Shabnam mentioned, right now, if you look at the bombardment of the content, and as Pallavi, like the Pallavi said, the whole overall the environment, the social media, and the bombardment, and we are in, it, in so hurry, and the thing is, like, the attention span is very less.
Yeah.
We are scrolling things. It's like, we know, even for us, like I feel for myself at sometimes, like I don't give like, okay, 3-4 seconds, no, next. So and we have remote in our hands, so it is, I mean, it's getting difficult for this form of the communication, or for this form of art, like specifically documentaries, to make it longer, or we have to somehow, if we want, because eventually, if you are making things, you are taking it to the audience, you want to share that experience. So somehow, you have to make uh, towards the standards, like, and the limits. And when you talk about, even for the online, abhi agar aap YouTube ki, I would love to explore, Shabnam ji, your YouTube channel as well. I feel so, I feel so bad, I am totally unaware about your initiative till now. But I am definitely going to explore that. And Pallavi ji, I am also going to listen your songs and your work.
Yeah.
And so so we are limited even in YouTube. If you are making channel, like, you cannot put like 30-minute episode, or 30-minute or 50-minute thing there. But so what is going on, okay, just divide it to 5 parts, make it to 3 minutes, 5 minutes, so to get the audience. But personally, I feel like I want to make more longer films. I don't like, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. If you
Yeah.
ask me, I want to make like 2 hour film, where like you want, at least you can experience the soul of it. I don't know how to put stuff in like 1 minute and 2 minute challenges, and there is a competition of 3 minute and 5 minute. I don't know how to do that, and how to put soul in it. So I want to make longer films, and uh, but somehow you have to go with the,
Yeah. 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 The
what's
market
going on.
demands.
Yeah.
Market demands.
No, we should start a counter movement.
Yeah.
I remember around the globe, we've had, from fast food, there is a whole movement that has started called slow food movement in Italy, right? Where people are saying, no, we don't want fast food. We want food that has been plucked, pickled, ground, rachoed in over several hours, and we will wait. And we want that taste of experience. And this reminds me of a conversation again with Parvati, where she sang a song for us, Jonomo Morono, which is on our channel, and she said my guru would sing this at 3 times slower than I'm singing it right now, and she sung it very slowly. Okay. And she says very passionately that it is our responsibility as singers and cultural or organizers to have that courage, to buck the trend, to say, no, if you cannot engage, cannot listen, I'm inviting you to a different taste.
Yeah.
Do it. But we all play safe, and we our concerts today are ridiculous, like half an hour slots, 25-minute slots to musicians.
Yeah.
So I think this is going to boomerang. I think let's start a slow music. Let's return to slow music and slow listening and deep listening, and let's all do it
Hope so.
together.
Hope that day is soon to come.
Yeah. In my case, the footage was only 600 hours.
You reduced it to almost close to 4.5 hours.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, 6 hours. 6 hours because each film is 1.5 hours.
Yeah.
For films, we reduced 600 hours to 6. And the reason why I shot so much was not so much of bad planning, but because very clearly, as I was shooting, I was recognizing the incredible jewels that were unfolding. And here I am sitting in a very remote village, documenting with a singer who I don't know when next that opportunity, often many aged singers. So very clearly, I realized that we are shooting not just for films, we are shooting for an archive. That became very clear midway. So and also personally, there was a greed about the songs. I just wanted more and more songs, and one wanted to listen and document all of them and in full. So very clearly it was way beyond the needs of the film that the documentation was happening. And which is why I went through a deep paralysis, creative paralysis, when I sat down on the editing table. Your question, Suresh, is very pertinent, which is, how do you tell a story now? And I kind of plummeted into a deep well of self-doubt, and which lasted almost a year. I struggled with it for a long time. And I think the thing that made the breakthrough from me was what I like to call, I went from an outside in to an inside out approach to editing. Which is, I did not sit on the editing table and say, okay, what is my film going to say? And then find the footage from my footage that will say it and then construct it outwards in. Rather, I said, I don't know what I want to say. What is this footage wanting to say? Okay. And I said, okay, I'm going to hang all big pictures. Forget what the big pictures, forget what this film's larger messages. Let me just today spend some time looking at these 2 hours of footage. That's all. And tarasho it like a sculptor would, just pare it down. And isme jo jaan hai, okay? Just let that come out. Just remove all the faff. And just the jewel that has been presented to you here, whether you use it in the film eventually or not, hang that concern. Just pare it down. And like that, over 6 months to a year, we pared down 600 hours to 60.
My God.
Okay.
My God.
And then in the next year, we pared down 60 hours to 6. So, and as the scenes began to emerge inside out, then they began to cluster associatively with each other. It's like, ye ek sequence ban gaya. Oh, this can transit so beautifully into this, and maybe this can transit so beautifully into this. And over here, this meaning is emerging, and over here, this meaning is emerging. And still, I don't know what the larger picture is. Okay, of course I do. But you hang that, you put that aside for a minute. You listen to what the footage is saying. What is your material saying? It's like Mati kahe kumhar se. The kumhar is listening to the Mati, You're listening to the material, the materiality of it. And to me, this is actually a metaphor. It's a big lesson for life itself. We all learn lessons, no? Otherwise, why would we be making films on Kabir and Sufism? That this is a lesson for life. You know, we all have grand plans for our lives. We have grand narratives. मेरी जिंदगी ऐसे unfold होगी, मैं यहाँ जाऊंगी, मैं यहाँ. This is what my life should look like, right? But often your footage is not making it look like the film you have in your head, right? Similarly for your life, what's unfolding in your life is often not what you had planned for it, right? So can you hang all the big narratives for your life and just say, what is life presenting me today, here and now? And can I just connect with the Jan in this here and now? And it will all connect. The dots will get joined. And to have that sense of surrender, that it's all going to get edited. My life will get edited into a great film if I let go.
One final question that I have for both of you is on budgets. How did you get your funding and how did you get back your funds? Because too many filmmakers are watching, and most of the new filmmakers have the same question most of the time: how to
Yes,
raise funds for a film and how to get back the funds that you have invested.
right, right. I mean, I don't belong to that category of filmmakers who had the pressures and demands of getting back. These were grant-driven films. We raised a fund from the Ford Foundation, and a generous fund. I think at that time it was about 40 lakhs to work over 3-4 years. Eventually it became 7 years. We stretched that money over 7 years, and not only did we make 4 films out of it, but we produced 10 audio CDs, 6 books from that same fund, and we did not have the pressure to make it back. So in a sense, it was a gift again. That's why I say I often feel one was gifted many things. So
yeah, that's what about
And
Jawad?
yes, so in my case too, mostly it is like depends on the small grants, or like you can get grants, very little grants, but I think it is very difficult now to get grants as well, because most of the grants are international, and there are a lot of applications, and since last couple of years I was applying grants for my new film, but till now I got like, I have submit like more than like 40-50 applications, and all of them like, we are sorry, your project is really interesting, but we cannot help you in this. You get that same rejection template. So it is getting difficult. But what motivates me, I mean, it's like my passion. So what I do, so I'm a commercial filmmaker as well. I do corporate stuff, I do digital films, I do corporate documentaries and stuff like that, so that's where my survival is. So, and that's how I support my personal projects as well. Through
Yeah,
my commercial work, I support my personal projects, and that's why my projects, my passion projects takes a lot of time, like years to complete, because it's in episodes, it's like in different spells. So that's how like I gain. I mean, so I support through my commercial work, my independent work. That's what I do, and I think that is the best way. Because one more thing about grants, which I feel that when you talk about as an independent filmmaker about your creative freedom, your creative license, and you are taking grant, and so somehow you are going to compromise at some extent. It happened with me as well. So it's like, okay, you have taken that grant, and we have some rules. You cannot criticize against religion, and you cannot talk about state and stuff, and this we have, so that's so somehow at some extent you have to compromise on that, on your creative freedom as well, on your narrative as well, which I don't want. So my first priority is to support through my commercial work, and through like independent funding, or through funding or grant which don't, where you don't have to compromise on your creative freedom. But I think it's a bit difficult, and so it really depends. But I feel like in the end, you have to spend on your dream project. You shouldn't expect like other organizations or people, and they will come and spend on dream projects. You have to take initiatives. You have to work hard for it. Yes.
Yeah, both you and me are sailing in the same kind of boat. I do a lot of television work to earn money so that I can make my kind of films. Okay.
Yes.
Anyway,
Yes.
we have been.
I think I want to clarify. I think even the budget figures that I gave, I myself forgotten. I think it was more than what I said. So you can remove that from the records. Yeah. We raised, I think, more than 40 lakhs from Ford for these, for the entire project and everything that we did. Anyway, yeah.
Okay, there is also one more question from one of the youngsters, Sumant from Mysore. He says, you made specifically for Shabnam, that you have made 3 or 4 films. Totally, your film budget making did not cross more than 3 or 4 crores.
Not at all. 3-4 crores to kahan ki baat kar rahe hain aap? Everything was done very much in, I think, 70 or 75, and that too not just 4 films. Like I said, 6 books, 10 audio CDs were produced, and these 4 films were made. And we also worked with a cartoonist, wonderful cartoonist, to develop a graphic novel. So many things came out of this fund that we got from Ford, which was about 70 or 75. Yeah.
And I have one last question, specifically to Shabnam first and then to Jawad. One is, you continuously use image of kaleidoscope, kind of 4 images. Was it a political choice while in the edit, or was there any other reason for that kind of a thing? And there is one more thing. There is a continuous travel shot, a camera in a car traveling, and there is a lot of amount of voiceover on that specific thing, or otherwise there is a song. These are 2 images which continue. Of course, I can understand this travel shot, because the whole film is in search of Kabir. You are in search, so you are traveling. But this kaleidoscope was one very interesting thing. That's a very interesting image also.
That's interesting. And I want to, before I answer this question, I want to ask you, Suresh, that you said, was it a political choice? I want to know why you use that word. I'm curious.
Because, one image becoming 4 or 6 in a kaleidoscope has a specific meaning as far as Indian philosophy is concerned. But in today's political terms, I don't know how you were trolled or how you were questioned when your film was screened at various places. Like the first scene of Had Anhad, where in a shop there is somebody breaking Babri Masjid, and the whole discussion is happening, and an onlooker joins the discussion. You are talking to the shop owner while an onlooker comes inside and starts bombarding his opinion on you. That's a specific, when you use that footage, you have a specific reason, you have a specific choice, and probably that something like that would have prompted you to use that kaleidoscope kind of an image. I don't know, I might have used that word politically in the flow of the talk, but basically, even while, if I have made such as if I have used such a word, probably you had an intention, or you might not even have. I want to know why you use that.
Very nice question. Thank you. No one's asked me this question before. So you've asked me to reflect on something that I did instinctively. I think for me, the device of the kaleidoscope evoked a sense of multiplicity of paradigms that are claiming Kabir. Had and Had makes us journey through these claims and counterclaims on, is Kabir a Hindu, is he a Muslim? And there is the Kabir Panth discourse in the middle of it, where they are saying he came from the place
he was born in a lotus.
Born in a Lotus. There are so many narratives that have unfolded over history, where we see these multiple claims to Kabir. And to me, that kaleidoscopic confusion evoked that sense of multiplicity and not quite knowing where is this going to settle, what is the truth, what is the real picture here. So I think it was to evoke that,
Yeah, yeah.
that the kaleidoscope image came. And travel, yes, like you said, the entire quest unfolded physically also for me through multiple journeys. So that got reflected in the film. And you said there is always a song. And I think that's a significant decision that I took somewhere when I was editing the films, which was that in constructing the dialogue, in constructing the narrative, let it not be an argument from my intellect. Let the song bind a scene together.
Yeah.
Let the song be the narrative. So you will see many sequences in these films which unfold with the beginning, then one antara, then the next antara of the song, intercut with episodes happening where I'm meeting someone, going somewhere, there is some conversation, and then you go back to the song again. So it is the song that is unfolding meaning for you. I'm not unfolding meaning for you. You know, I'm giving the privilege to that song because the song actually is a unified system of knowledge. It is not fragmented. It, like our heads tend to fragment things. When these Sufi songs are created, they are whole. They are at once about many things. Whereas if I tried to think things through, I would say, oh, yeah, I want to put a song about caste. Yeah, let me put a point about this. You know, this is how our fragmented minds think. But when a Sufi thinks, it is at once about death, impermanence, life, caste, social divisiveness, spiritual ideas, anhad nad, all of it in one song. Okay. So I can't separate it. So I submitted to the structure of the song because I realized this is a far higher truth than anything I can offer.
Yeah, so it was a beautiful answer. I have also learned a lot of things out of this idea of what you told about kaleidoscope. And I was also very surprised when I saw that small scene in the first film, Had and Had, where the director goes into a practitioner, Sufi practitioner's house, where there is somebody who is inviting him to some town, where there is a discussion happening between the singer and some one more player of the one more person of the team with the person who has come to invite about Sagun and Nirgun.
Yes,
That
yes.
was a fantastic question. That it was kind of it looked like I was there.
Yeah. I remember that. I remember
the discussion is happening. I was really delighted with that kind of a, and it was really fortunate for you to have that kind of a moment in your film. You know, nobody gets gets a chance to show
Absolutely.
that kind of a material, which is not orchestrated, it is not dramatized. It happened just in front of
It
you.
happened. Yeah.
And like that in Jawad's film also. There is one player. He's the only player in that town, and he says, "We will go to this specific gully, music gully." And they go to that music gully. They invite that person, and the woman in the house says, "He's taking bath. He'll come out." And it's cut to another detail where they're eating some food on the street. All these details, you know, will lead to one more shot in a Haveli of the same man who is limping, that limping musician. He's all alone in a big Haveli as the camera travels back. This shot and the previous shot, which I explained at the 49th minute, these two shots specifically talk about the whole idea of being alone in a world where everybody is saying, no, don't play, this is haram, you're not supposed to use music. These two shots specifically talk of the political situation and the sociological situation of those players. The
Yeah,
image
it
construction
is.
as it is in your film is so very beautiful. Were you inspired by some other filmmaker, or you found these shots while making? That is the
No,
basic.
no. Uh, so it's more about, I think it's so those shots are the I mean it's part of the process, you know. It's not about any inspiration or something. It just happened, I would say that. So it's not, there was not like I didn't plan anything. Even for that shot, it was the moment, and we just did it and we got it. Luckily we got it, so that was the thing. And the I feel like, so my films are political. I mean, I feel that it and it can't be neutral. I don't know how you can be neutral when you say, like, as a filmmaker or as a journalist, you have to neutral. How everyone has his or her own political
Every
opinion. I
artist is
can't be
political.
neutral. Yeah, so my art is political, my films are political. And Indus Blues is, when people ask me, it's a very political film. So if you look at it, I mean, in Pakistan, like we have, it's about like 7 minute and 22 seconds are censored in Pakistan. We have censored version in Pakistan,
Mhm.
you know. And it took us about 1 year to just to get the censor certificate of the film for the public exhibition. So you can get an idea how political is it. Yeah. So yes, so this is the thing. And when you talk about the shots and stuff, in this process, it's more about subject driven, you know. I don't believe on somehow I with the voiceover thing or voice of God or something, you know. It's more about the character driven film. It's more about, you know, the narrative driven film. It's more about subject driven film. And that's why when we talk about the editing and post production, it's really difficult, because when you sit on edit, you have to rewrite the whole film, you know. Because then it's the whole process to design the structure of the story, the storyline. And I think we have made about like we took like three different approaches when we started on editing. We made the whole film, we edited the whole film. It took us about 1 year, and I just trashed it out. I was not satisfied with it. I was like, no, I mean, it is not making sense. It's not, because if something works, you get that vibe, it's working, you know. So we put lot of effort, but it was not working, because initially it was the story of each instrument, you know. And somehow every instrument was separate, and it was not, the whole idea was not working at all. Then we started editing again. So this is the whole process. And as Shabnam ji, you know, I really loved her thing. I mean, it's all about like you have to peel the skin to get the जान जो अंदर वाली जो जान है. So it was the whole process. लेकिन उस जान को एक structure में डालने के लिए it's a flow thing. I mean, sometimes it works. ओके, ये वाला जुमला इसके साथ कनेक्ट हो रहा है, ये सीन उसमें कनेक्ट हो रहा है, you know. It's just all about experimentations, you know. It's all about the feel. It's all about like what works and what doesn't work. And I don't know how to explain it. And it's different with every project.
Yeah,
I mean, we don't have any technique, specific technique or something. It's different with every project.
yeah,
And it needs, I mean, it's all about, and it depends on your mood as well, like what mood you are in, you know.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, and there are few moments in your film which was really
Not,
disturbing individually for me also.
yeah, so you have to start, yeah.
What happened? Is the internet connection?
So
I think we are losing Jawad bhai.
Shabnam, sir. Sorry, Jawad. There is some
the
internet.
whole process, Suresh, and but this is the whole process, and we love being part of this process.
Yes. Yeah, we have almost crossed or touching 2 hours of time. Huh? I probably, if we continue to discuss on this four films of Shabnam and the film of Jawad, we can continue the discussion for at least for another 2 or 3 hours. But we should have a time limit. We should have a end to at least to today's discussion. I thank both Shabnam and Jawad Sharif for making the time to come and participate in this discussion. We will transliterate this discussion and send it to you on email. Whatever correction, if you wish to make, you can do that correction, or if you wish to add something to an answer, you can also add. Of course, the whole transliteration will be sent to both Jawad, Shabnam, and Pallavi. And I once again thank Pallavi for making this discussion interesting with some fantastic questioning, specifically on what is the listening question. It is even this second, this moment, it is very haunting to me. The idea of listening. Thanks for bringing in all those ideas into the discussion. And Deepu, for getting these two filmmakers and these films for screening. We wish to collaborate with you more, and these filmmakers also, so that we can have more screening, more discussion. Only with dialogue we get more healthy. So I believe in the idea of dialogue.
Thank you so much, Suresh. And I also want to say thank you for creating this opportunity for us to breach the border. And it's very nice to be here online with Jawad Bhai.
Yeah.
Very nice to have met you and heard about your journey and aapka jo emotion, the feeling, the soul behind your work. Thank you for sharing that. I feel very happy when these ये सरहदें हम लांघ पाते हैं, क्योंकि ना तो सॉन्ग को वीजा चाहिए होता है और ना फिल्म को. So when that happens, I feel very so.
We wish to see more film of
Thank you.
Jawad Sharif.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Shabnam ji. I mean, your words means a lot, and it was such a pleasure. Initially, when Deepu discussed the idea and he told me about festival, I was so looking forward to it, and I am really looking forward to watch your films and to follow your work. I mean, आपका काम, आपकी बातें, it's such an inspiration for me, and you feel at home when you talk with like-minded people. And वो सरहदें वाली बात है, मैंने फिल्म के अंदर वो एक जुमला कि फील नहीं बन रही थी, मैंने उसमें डाल दिया. उसमें there was
oh, his bandwidth is low.
Jogis, Murli Beam, they
Jawad Sharif's bandwidth is low, so his audio is not proper.
Jawad, there is a problem with your audio.
So
probably he has a network issue.
So
Jawad, you have a network issue?
Yeah. So it was Sitar Jogi and the line.
Okay, I think it got cut.
Yeah.
Anyway, Jawad, probably wants to say a few more things. Probably his network has an issue. We once again thank.
He always want to come to India and spend time here.
We shall invite him.
So
We shall
yeah,
show all his films to all our audience. And as he stated, all his films are political, so we'll be more interested to see all his political films. And in this today's situation, it is more important for us, and it is more kind of a showing solidarity to all those political filmmakers. We should all join together, show more of Jawad's film to Indian filmmakers and Indian film audience. Anyway, thanks all of you for joining. Let us hope we keep meeting again and again and again and have dialogue. Dialogue, once again, I tell, it keeps us healthy. Let us keep talking to each other. Thank
Yes.
you. Thanks a
Thank
lot.
you. Thank you. Thank you so much.